We have an absolutely huge sass, which is big, which is great. I'm going to bring on three fantastic panelists. If you've been following along, you know who they are. Let's bring on
Onion Possum,
Mutter and Oko's Abs. Hey, you all have been on these panels before. You're on dozens of panels. They may know who you are, but let's introduce ourselves anyway, starting with
Onion Possum,
Thank you, Jeff Keighley. So let's start from the beginning. The year is 2002. I'm 12 years old, I live in Italy, and several things are happening. We are living the lira for the euro. The Fellowship of the Ring is currently rocking my whole being. Oh, and I bought my first MTG starter deck, intrigued by the illustration. It's from a new set called Onslaught, filled with creature type synergies, strange mechanics like Morph, and wonderful lore. I fall in love immediately. My weekly allowance disappears in booster pack after booster pack. I play and play until the release of the regional Innistrad, and then, which is what, 2011? I'm old. From then on, I only play on Duels, Magic Arena, and then I stopped playing. Snap back to now! In the year of our Lord, 2024, 13 whole years later, I start playing in real life again at a local game store. It's Commander, obviously. Everyone plays Commander now, which I like since I can use my old ass cards, brew some stupid decks, have fun. Now that I'm back in the game, I want to take a deeper look at it and see what I will change.
Because I like to dissect the things I know.
Anyone that has played Magic, from alpha boomers to excellent zoomers, from commander group huggers to competitive staxers, knows that MTG has a big flaw in its design. That flaw is lands. To play cards in Magic, you need mana, and mana comes mostly from other cards in your deck, which represent lands. The problem is, since they are part of your deck, you have to first draw them, so maybe you don't draw any lands for multiple turns, leaving you essentially several turns behind your opponent.
Many Magic the Gathering players
I call these being mana screwed. Or maybe you only draw lands and you find yourself doing nothing, while your opponent kicks your head in with his capybara. This is called being mana flooded. Everybody hates when these two things happen to them. And I also feel bad when they happen to my opponents, since I'm not really winning thanks to my ability, but thanks to their bad luck. It's not fun for anyone at the table. Now, this isn't some big secret. Wizards of the Coast knows about this and has tried to mitigate the problem in recent years. For example, they have made double-faced cards, which can be played either as a spell or as a land. They've also printed cards with land cycling, which can be discarded from your hand to search your deck for a specific type of land and add it to your hand. These are good steps, but they don't solve the problem inherent with lands, especially mana flood. So what's the solution? Get rid of lands? Well, there are many card games which are essentially Magic clones without lands. A lot of them. They simply throw out lands and maybe hide them in an extra deck, give you automatic mana each turn, or they let you play any cards as land. The last method was even invented by Wizards of the Coast itself when they wanted to make some sort of Magic Light for the Japanese market, and they came out with Duel Master Kaijudo. So no lands, no problem, right? Well, since entire archetypes and central mechanics of the game are based around lands, you can't rip them out without destroying Magic to its core. And besides, I like lands. They are very pretty and iconic for sure, but also they have several important functions. First, they decrease the overall information load of the cards in your hand. And boy, with the walls of text we are getting in the last few years, we sure need that. Take a starting hand of 7 cards, 3 of which are basic lands. You know what they do, so your brain can concentrate on just the other 4. Lands also dilute your draws, which seems like a bad thing, but it really helps with the power level of draw spell. Take Cost of Greed from Yu-Gi-Oh! It always gives you 2 cards that do something impactful. Now take Quick Study. The 2 cards you draw could be 2 spells, 1 spell and 1 land, or even 2 lands. Lands also give variety to games, since you won't always have the amount of mana you need or the colors you need. You can play the same deck over and over, and thanks to lands, it will play differently every time. And last but not least, lands can have interesting abilities that change the way you play. Some can generate extra mana if some conditions are met, some produce multiple colors of mana, and some can even turn into creatures. No, If we want to make Magic a better game, we have to keep lands. In fact, I want to add a new type of land. Let's see it. These are paths. What is a path? Well, it could be a street, a wild trail, or even one of the interdimensional portals called Omen Paths, which popped up recently in the lore. The Magic team can have fun changing the flavor for each set and printing new version like they do for basic lands. So a path is a land with the super type path that taps for 1 colorless mana, comes into play tapped. It's a really bad land, like one of the worst ever. However, they also have 2 other abilities. The first, given by the super type path, is that you can begin the game with 1 path in the command zone if you go first, or up to 2 paths if you don't go first. During your turn at sorcery speed, you can exile a card from your hand to add a path to your hand from the command zone. The second ability is that when a path enters the battlefield, if you control at least 3 other lands, you voyage 2. Voyaging is a new action like scrying, milling, or surveilling. Voyaging X means that you look at the top X cards of your library, you exile any number of land cards from among them, and put the others back on top in any order. For the rules lawyers in the audience, you can have 4 paths in your deck, as usual, plus up to 2 paths outside the game. In constructed formats, this means that paths outside the game count towards your sideboard total. Mana Screwed, exile a big expensive spell and get a land. Mana Flooded, Voyaging will let you throw away a pocket of lands from the top of your library so that you can start drawing spells again. Now, paths are colorless, so they won't help you paying costs filled with colored mana symbols, but they'll help with generic costs. It's up to you to build a deck in a way that minimizes the possibility of getting stuck on colors, as always. I think that's a fun challenge and it doesn't feel as bad as getting mana screwed. You wanted to put that Phyrexian Obliterator in your black-green deck. You know what could happen. Now, let's tackle another big problem. Sets. Once upon a time, when animals spoke the tongue of mankind, and the hands of kings could heal leprosy, in the mist at the edge of myth, the forgotten age pre-2018, Magic was released in blocks. The sets in a block took place on the same plane, followed a single story, and shared some core mechanics and themes. The 3 set blocks were composed by a large set, followed by 2 small sets, with notable exceptions like Zendikar, Innistrad, and Tarkir block. The 2 set blocks were made out of just a large set and a smaller set. Then everything changed when the pirates, merfolk, vampires, and dinosaurs attacked. Ixalan was the last block, and now we have only large distinct sets. Why did Wizards decide to move away from the block structure? 2 main problems. First, drafting is kind of awkward because you have to mix sets. When you draft the 3rd set in a block, you only have 1 booster from each set. The mechanics of each set compete instead of supporting each other, and you end up with something that feels like a jumbled mess. The 2 set blocks didn't really change much. The second reason is, well, sales. The 2nd and 3rd sets in a block always sold less than the first. Blocks also have an inherent problem for players. If you don't like a block setting or core mechanic, you'll skip 3 full sets of cards instead of just 1. With the new release schedule, you'll have a fresh new story, plane, and mechanic with each set, which is my main complaint. We are not given enough time to live inside a particular setting, to know its characters and play with its particular flavor of Magic. Not only that, but nowadays each set must introduce, develop, and resolve a conflict. Each and every set is a different story, and it has no space to breathe. You'll never ask yourself how the plot will develop, because there is nothing outside the confines of a set of Magic. Will the heroes prevail? You already know during spoiler season. Who is the murderer? Here are some cards and a full video spoiling that for you before the murder mystery set is even out. I want stories with a beginning, middle, and end back in Magic. I want my mechanics to be introduced in the most simple way in the starting set and then experimented with in the following. I don't want to jump around the multiverse at this breakneck speed. Kaldheim was made out of 10 different words, introduced just for one single set and then dumped straight after. How do we solve the draft problem? Simple. Each set in a block is still drafted by itself and every set is large, exactly as it is now. Blocks will be made out of 3 or 2 sets, depending on the story that we want to tell, and sometimes we could even have a one-shot single set block. All sets in a block will share some mechanics, which, if you are paying attention, is kind of like the Midnight Hunt Crimson Vow sort of block that they made. Yeah, I want something like that, but not like that, because that was a travesty. I really didn't like that. They have to do better. So let's take another example. Let's take All Will Be One. March of the Machine and Aftermath. Now they are all the same block. In All Will Be One, you see the preparation for the Phyrexian invasion, but Toxic isn't confined to All Will Be One and appears throughout the block. Like, did the Phyrexians forget how to poison during the invasion? It makes sense to keep it around for a while. Also, I hate these parasitic mechanics that exist just for one set and never again, but have synergy cards dedicated to them. Anyways, where was I? Right, March of the Machines. The Phyrexians invade the multiverse. We see various battles and chaos spreads to many worlds. The invasion won't end here though, it's still spreading. Then Aftermath, which in this version isn't a pointless mini set that leads to the Pinkertons being called on a guy, but a normal set. It also won't be an epilogue, but a proper ending. The final battle is fought here. Mommy dies, and a lot of planeswalkers lose their spark. Beginning, middle, end. Then we go to Eldraine, and we have maybe 2 sets there, and so on. But what if block settings or mechanics are not well received? The players will be trapped there for more than one set and it will suck. Yes, it would. So I have the solution. I call it: playtest more and do your job well. Will this new keyword be fun to play with? I don't know, make some dudes play with it a lot and refer back to you. For the setting, you just have to return to serious world building and lore instead of these amusement park style settings with cosplaying characters and weak narratives, like plopping murders at Karl of Manon or Ravnica instead of New Capenna for no reason. But New Capenna doesn't have investigators, it's all crime families. Did Ravnica have investigators before? Like non-Boros, non-Azurius investigators with fedoras and stuff? No? You can make stuff up and add new facets to your world because they are fantastical places full of possibilities? Right, just like I thought. Also missed me with this: the Far West Plane was completely empty of sapient life before the Omen paths opened, and everyone likes to dress up as silly little cowboys for absolutely no reason, and after maybe just 1 year on Thunder Junction. Also, the demon Rakdos, terror of an entire plane, now wants to rob a bank and go hee-haw, partner. Unbelievable. I lost my train of thought again. One last thing about the releases. You need to slow down, guys. I tell you this as someone that follows each and every spoiler season, even for the Universe Beyond stuff. You are releasing too much stuff. Normal sets, master sets, Universe Beyond sets, 4 commander decks for each set, secret layers, and then the different treatment for each card. Panorama full art basics, Phyrexianized full art basics, borderless dual lands, extended art, Icor, borderless Icor, borderless manga, borderless concept, Phyrexian language, foils, step and complete foils, oil slick raised foils. And that's just from Phyrexia All Will Be One. It's getting to the point that recognizing a card by its art is kind of difficult, even for me. You only need 3 card treatments: normal cards, foil cards, and special frame cards. That's it. 1 special frame per plane, simple and clean, is the way that you make me feel tonight. Na 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 na, etc. So in essence, cut down on the quantity of product, focus on the quality. Give your developing teams more time to test their ideas before they are blasted out into packs. This way you may even ban less cards since you would, balance them first. Do you remember Oko? The whole companion fiasco? Being rough, guys, you can do better than this. Last but not least, can we please have magic novels back instead of short online fiction? I know it will cost you a lot more, but it's a world of difference. Lore is important, and Magic has great lore, but you also need solid stories to attach that lore to. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of wiki articles and rushed fiction. Alright, I've said my piece. If you want to, nothing stops you from proxying some paths and try them in a game or two. See if it feels better and come back to me, I'm really curious. Also, what else should change in Magic the Gathering? Let me know down there in the comments. And if you liked my ramblings, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, it helps a lot. Thank you and see you next time. Onion Possum out.